it just got very real for the Toronto Maple Leafs as a brand new report has dropped surrounding Jonathan Toews and the Leafs that has fans fired up, and not only that, has huge implications going forward for this team. We're going to break that down and discuss what it means going forward as things have gotten very interesting surrounding the Leafs. Before we get into it, folks, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable, so thank you guys for that, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel. About 71% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed, so make sure to hit that button. There's a lot to go over today, and obviously the Leafs are in a very interesting situation. We've been talking about John Tavares a lot here and how his extension is coming. We're going to be talking about another John today, but this time Jonathan Toews. And of course, we covered a report a few days ago surrounding Jonathan Toews and the Toronto Maple Leafs, and how there was preliminary interest following the report that Toews' return to the NHL is imminent at this point. And then we got a couple new reports, but this is the biggest one. Now, we'll start with this. Chris Johnson came out yesterday and said that roughly 10 teams have reached out to Jonathan Toews' camp. So obviously, for Jonathan Toews, we know he's coming back to the NHL, and the big question was, are the Leafs one of these teams? Does he fit the mold? The answer, I think, is yes. But the official answer is, hearing the Leafs are one of the several teams that have reached out about signing Jonathan Toews. So, Darius, I want to get your thoughts on this. Of course, Jonathan Toews, very interesting player, very good player. But there's been around 10 teams who have reached out, and the Leafs are officially one of them, according to Nick Albrega.
Yeah, and I think a lot more of the other teams around the league are going to be interested in this player as well. But if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, this guy fits what you need. First of all, he can play maybe third. We don't know exactly what he's going to look like. Obviously, he's had 2 years off, but he's going to play in the NHL somewhere next year. He is playing in the NHL next year, whether he's a third liner, a fourth liner, but he can come in, he wins faceoffs. He's a guy who's won. He knows how to win, right? And multiple Stanley Cups with the Chicago Blackhawks. And we haven't talked about it on the channel yet, but a lot of people are throwing the idea out there that if you want to change the DNA, maybe you sign Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane. Now, I think that's a little crazy. We can talk about that in a different video. Patrick Kane, unironically, might actually be a good signing because we know what he brings to a lineup and he can, score a ton of points and stuff like that. But I think adding Jonathan Toews, we talked about in a previous video, is a smart move. And I know a lot of people in the comments out there on Twitter, all of that are saying it's not a good move. It would be a good move because it's a low risk, high reward move. And, we're going to get into it later in the video. The salary that is projected right now is league minimum. I said it in the last video that we covered him. It's going to be league minimum. This guy's not going to come in and make a boatload of money. He's been off for 2 years. You don't exactly know what you're going to have. But the Leafs, and I wanted to throw this back to you, Nick, too. Max Pacioretty, you were right about him last year, right? This could be a similar situation where, a lot of guys would be open to coming to Toronto, first of all, to play for the Leafs. They're considered a contender right now. And the medical staff here, right? It's really good. So they can kind of work with him, and he wants to play in the NHL. He thinks he's ready. They're going to be doing some tests. I would imagine he's going to pass all of those tests. He's been skating this whole time, but it could be similar to Max Pacioretty last year too.
Yeah, and obviously for Max Pacioretty, he's also he was on a PTO and then, of course, signed at the league minimum. And I'm just going to throw this report real quick before I continue. Sir Valley is reporting that Toews' contract will be a league minimum plus performance bonuses. So there's no real bad deal that's a league minimum. Even the Yanni Hakanpää contract last year, that was considered a fail by Badger Living and a miss. It didn't really affect anything, right? And obviously deals like the David Kampf one, you could argue if they had bad implications going forward. This will be a league minimum, much less than David Kampf's going to make. And Max Pacioretty was one of the best Leafs playoffs performers, surprisingly enough. And for a while there, in the regular season, he had a very hot start to the season, then kind of tailed off. I have more faith in Jonathan Toews than I do in Max Pacioretty, and I had a ton of faith in Max Pacioretty as well. I think Toews is a little bit more left in the tank. Of course, was dealing with a bunch of different things, some health concerns, some health scares, and health issues. But Pacioretty was dealing with some things that have made him a lot slower as a player. I think if Jonathan Toews comes back and he's healthy and clears all the protocols, he could be a very valuable player. Also is, like you mentioned, a proven Stanley Cup winner. And in case you missed the initial report, he reached out to his agent to inform him he's 100% committed to coming back to the NHL and is going to be taking calls from now till the end of the month here. He's 37, last played in April. He's 2 years older than Max Pacioretty, but he's been working out the last several months to get himself ready for this comeback. Now, I think that, when the Leafs signed Max Pacioretty, Pacioretty had more recent NHL experience than Jonathan Toews does. Of course, Jonathan Toews is 2 years removed from playing games. But I think Toews does have a higher ceiling at this point. We know what he can bring. If you put him on the fourth line, we know the only players that are really, at least in my mind, locked in now are Scott Laughton, and of course the normal guys, Nas, assuming he resigns, which he will, Matthews, and of course William Nylander. The rest, it's an open book. We'll see, some guys you can pencil in. I'm fine with completely rejuvenating the bottom two pairings, or the bottom two lines, sorry, the bottom six, And bringing Jonathan Toews in changes the DNA, and then you surround him with some fast skaters who can be scorers. I have full faith in Toews being able to score a little bit, but also win faceoffs and be a decent facilitator.
Absolutely. He's really good on the draw and he brings that winning mentality. He's done it multiple times with the Chicago Blackhawks. They were running the league for 6 years, winning Stanley Cups. And when they didn't win the Stanley Cup, they were losing to the eventual Stanley Cup champion in the playoffs, right? So he brings all of that to the table. And I see a lot of arguments against doing this, that he was going to make a lot of money. He's old, like he's 37. He's been off for 2 years. I don't know if being off for 2 years really means that much. Like he's back into good physical shape and skating shape. He's been working out, right? And he's not going to come in and be 2013 Jonathan Toews. That's not what we're saying. He's not going to come in and replace Austin Matthews on the first line or anything. He's going to come in and play third or fourth line center, and he's going to play that role very well, I think. And will he play all 82 games? Probably not, but Pacioretty didn't either, and he had great use last season. He was off to a hot start, like you said, one of the best performances for them in the playoffs. And this is a guy that the Leafs should have surrounded Nylander, Marner, Matthews with years ago, obviously different circumstances, rather than a guy like Joe Thornton or Patrick Marleau, guys who've never won before and don't know what it takes to win. So when you do surround them with guys like this, they're going to be able to tell them, no, this is actually how you're supposed to conduct yourself, right? So I like this move a lot. I think bringing Jonathan Toews in would be honestly phenomenal. And again, it's much like Pacioretty, a lot of people forget because it worked out so well. There was a lot of skepticism early on last season training camp when they were rumored to have signed him, and he barely played for 2 years either because of his Achilles injuries. He barely played for 2 seasons. Jonathan Toews, same thing. He said he's feeling good. He's skating again. I really like this move. We don't know what the makeup of the team is going to look like, though. We don't know if Tavares is coming back for sure. We assume he is, but we don't know what the center depth really looks like on the team yet, or even the wingers. But I would bring this player in for sure.
And I like the Patrick Kane also pair him with Jonathan Toews. Now,
Not a bad idea.
might scare some Leafs fans because of, like you mentioned, obviously different scenarios, but the Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, all that, those type of players towards the tail end of their career. But if you really want to shake things up, you bring Tavares back, you bring Kane in, you bring Toews in, you have Scott Laughton. Like, that's already a more lethal bottom six than what we had last year, scoring wise. And of course, we need scoring. The bottom six needs scoring. We saw that. We're seeing it with the Panthers. They have the deepest playoff team we've seen in a while when it comes to scoring. The Oilers, they have sneaky depth, but of course they're carried by their top players, which we know now. I mean, the Leafs' top players haven't been able to do to the degree of that. And of course, they have the best player in the world in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. But to follow up on this a little bit, the Leafs are among teams, again, willing to consider, and the Leafs are one of the teams from Jonathan Toews' side that he's willing to consider as well, which is very important because obviously you need two to work here and two to tango. But the Leafs are interested in him. He's interested in the Leafs. We'll know fairly soon surrounding what happens here. And it's interesting. If you could bring him in as a third or fourth line center, setting your expectations, it could be good, and it would bring winning pedigree to this team. Let us know down below what your thoughts are. In case you missed it, here are his stats. Of course, we know how good he was in his prime, but even in his last season, he still put up it'd be the best third or fourth liner the Leafs had last year if you had Jonathan Toews from his last healthy season, even at 35. So it's going to be interesting. You think John Tavares is going to get done. You pair that with Jonathan Toews. It'll be very interesting. Let us know down below what your thoughts are. And also, let us know what your thoughts are on the Patrick Kane situation. We'll have a video coming on that soon. See you guys later.